The new year is the perfect time to start building credit scores, because when your credit scores increase, your opportunities do too, like possible loan approvals and lower interest rates. Chime makes it easier to help build your credit with a secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. You can use Credit Builder everywhere Visa credit cards are accepted. Chime helps you build your credit scores safely by using your own money to make everyday purchases and on-time payments. To apply, just open a Chime checking account with a $200 qualifying direct deposit. And don't stress, there's no annual fee or credit check required to apply and get started. Start building your credit history and finding new opportunities with a secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Get started today at chime.com/build. That's chime.com/build. The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. Late payment may negatively impact your credit score. Results may vary.
You're listening to a Weeby Geeks Network podcast.
Another world. Another time in the age of wonder.
There was once a dream. You could only whisper it. Anything more than a whisper, and it would vanish.
A battle between good and evil.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Where shall I find a new adversary so close to my own level?
Try the local sewer.
You know of the rebellion against the Empire?
The Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes.
Peace means having a bigger stick than the other guy.
One of these days, I'm gonna have a stick of my own.
I'm Groot.
Welcome to the Neverland Podcast. The podcast for lovers of Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
Please welcome your host, Jeremy.
I thought he'd be taller.
Yeah, I can fly.
All it takes is faith and trust.
Well, if it isn't the Star-Spangled Man with a plan, what is your plan today?
Up to Neverland!
Take your pixie out of your pockets, Neverlanders.
Got it right here.
Alrighty. Now remember, we're thinking our happiest thought. I've got to remember to think the happiest thought.
Okay, there it is. I got it.
Happy thoughts. Happy thoughts. And then, of course, we can take a good flying jump with that happy thought, and we're flying away to Neverland. It's me, it's Jeremy, it's the head Lost Boy Spider-Pan here, and of course, Lost Boy Eric is flying right along with us. Hello.
How do?
Yay, we've got good sound quality from you, so we get to hear from you again.
For the time being.
Yeah, because we've had some struggles the last couple of weeks, and when we go, and we're going to have more audio with Jim Korkis, and we can hear you a bit through your phone, so it kind of worked. Of course, neither one of us really got much chance to ask him any questions. He's just got so many stories. You just let him go.
That's true. That is true.
So he gave us so much and so many stories that really he's wrapped up a lot of the St. Louis story by the point of where we're going to pick up. But he's got so many stories about Walt and some surprising facts about Walt and some little bits of tidbits and details and just little things he just chatted about that was just so great that we're going to listen to all of that today. So we have even more fun. And if you want to hear the entire conversation, including some stuff that I've cut out, all connected, Patreon supporters at the $5 level, which I call the Magic Makers level, get to hear the entire conversation. In fact, it's already posted to Patreon long before you're getting a chance to hear this very episode. It's up there. I've shared it. You can hear the whole thing for just $5 a month. Really helps us out. And of course, that's just some of the exclusives with some of our guests coming up. Guest audio, I like to try to get it out to the $5 level early, so you get that little bonus treat whenever we have a guest on, which I have a lot of guests coming up. I've even been talking to a guy who was, we're going to do something kind of fun, novelty in toys. A guy who's a huge Hot Wheels collector. That's actually is local to me. He was like, hey, I'd love to do something with y'all's show. And I knew he was a big fan of Hot Wheels. He mentioned to me that there's actually a Disney Hot Wheels collection. So he's going to come on sometime and talk about that. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to happen because we've already got another author, Chris Lucas. We're setting up for next week that he's going to tell us about his brand new book, because we love talking about all these books because we learn stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And nothing like a good bit of Disney info and Disney history to, just help bind us and get our memory going and, start to find these connections, just like Jim Korkis shared with us over these last 2 weeks about, I had never known that St. Louis was really that seriously considered.
Yeah, and how close I came to having a great little Disney park I could have visited just a few hours away. I could drive that in a day, less than a day. Oh, My goodness, it's just a quick jaunt down to the river. But the funny thing is, okay, so all this knowledge we gain, and all right, so I've learned something. I was at a retirement party last night, and it was 80s themed. So playing some 80s music and having some fun, and we had a 15-question trivia contest.
Oh my!
Now, see, to me, these questions, I feel like they're common knowledge. Apparently, maybe they're not. So I'm thinking maybe we live in our own little weird world as either maybe as a podcast listener, or maybe because podcasters, we kind of have to be experts sometimes because we do some nostalgia here. And so maybe just being an expert on this is kind of part of what we do. Or maybe we're weirder than we think, or maybe we're just a group that we're bonded more in on fandom. I don't know. But in order to kind of an experiment on this, I'm going to give you the same quiz and see how you do.
Oh, no. So we're going from the knowledge we gain to the knowledge we game.
Da-da-da. I feel like that should be... I should have a sounder for that. That was a good one. So, and I'm going based upon my answers are written on this little sheet of paper here, which I have to remember the questions based upon the answers I wrote because I got these right, except for one that I got wrong.
Oh.
So, but I bet you'll probably get the same one wrong that I got wrong. It's very possible because there's a good reason that I got it wrong. Anyway, so question one.
Okay, question one.
Name 2 presidents from the 1980s.
2 presidents from the 1980s. That would be Ronald Reagan and George Bush.
Right. Senior. I would have also accepted Jimmy Carter because he didn't actually go out of office until later in 1980. I almost wrote down all 3, but I wasn't sure if Jimmy Carter was still around because I was like 3 years old. So
until around late January of
it was like
yeah.
Somebody told me it was like November when he actually would have went out or something like that that year. So that's interesting. All right, so number 2.
Okay.
Do you remember those shirts had a little crocodile as their emblem? What was the name of that company?
I want to say Lacoste or Lacrosse. No, it's not Polo. Yeah, final answer.
Izod.
Izod.
IZOD. I don't know how I remembered that, but I remembered that. I got that one right.
Well, I know I've got a couple of Izod shirts. They certainly don't have a little alligator on them currently.
Yeah, not anymore, but I don't know how I remembered that. It was weird to me last night. Okay. Question 3, and this is going to be easy for you, I'm sure.
Okay.
What is the name of the van in Scooby-Doo?
Oh, that's the Mystery Machine.
Ding, ding. Yeah, that was easy. Which that still counts as an 80s because there were still some good Scooby-Doo series in the 80s.
Oh, yes.
With the 12 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
Yes, 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. 13, that's right. Well, I just learned that there is I don't want to call it a remake, but there's an update of that concept coming soon from Warner Brothers.
Well, I would be excited about that if I thought that they were doing a good job with the brand right now, but I haven't enjoyed it. So,
well, they did show off that Vincent Van Gogh is part of this series or this show or whatever it is they're doing.
Well, that's nice. I just wish Vincent Price was still alive to be the character.
As do I.
Okay, now they had one specific answer, but I'm sure there's more than one answer you can give. Name a product that was introduced at McDonald's in the 1980s.
A product that was introduced at McDonald's in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say the chicken nugget.
Yep, that's the answer they were going for. I had also recollected the McDLT, which
yes.
Yeah, I think it only lasted like a couple of years.
Cold side cool.
Yeah, Jason Alexander's commercial, which we might all remember, which is weird stuff that, see, I remember this stuff. And other people look at me like I'm crazy when I remember it, and maybe we are. But yeah, I wrote down McDonald's first. And
I did have a McPizza at some point in the 1980s as well.
McPizza?
McPizza. Yes.
That must have been exclusive to certain areas or something.
Yeah, I believe it was a trial market, and let's just say it's a good thing it did not catch on.
Wow. Okay. What fashion item became popular thanks to the movie Flashdance?
Leggings? Leg warmers?
There you go, leg warmers. I was like, leggings, you're close, but yeah, leg warmers. Which I've never even seen that movie.
What they were called.
Yeah, I didn't wear them, you know. Here's another one I'm sure you're going to get too. How fast do you have to be driving in order to travel through time?
Oh, that's 88 miles per hour.
Exactly.
Although if it were Sammy Hagar, you know, he can't do 55.
Right. Well, he's got to go faster than 55.
Yes.
Okay, now here's the only one of these questions that I got wrong. Who won 5 NBA championships in the 1980s?
Well, I know that it can't be the Bulls, so I would say Larry Bird and the Celtics.
Nope, it was the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic Johnson.
Oh, there you go.
See, I got that one wrong because I was thinking, well, was Michael Jordan playing in the 80s? And so I wrote the Bulls. And then after I'd written that down, I was thinking, what if it was the Lakers? So I should have went with my second thought there. So I would have been perfect but you know, I never paid attention to basketball, and I'm sorry, I'm a nerdy geek. I'm not big. I mean, I like sports enough, but I'm not a huge sports guy. So that's just kind of the way it is.
Well, right. I'm not a big sports ball person either. So
exactly. I know enough. My sports ball team is better than your sports ball team, or something. Or doesn't Weird Al have a song like that? Something like that's pretty funny.
Your sports team is really inferior. Yeah,
exactly. Alrighty, so now this is another one. To me, it's an easy question, but some people struggle with this one as well. Question 8. What is the name of the talking car in the hit series Knight Rider?
Oh, that's easy. There's both Kit and there's Car.
Exactly. But of course, we're aiming for Kit.
I know. And I just learned that the person who voiced Car was... Oh, no, I just blanked out. Now I can't remember if it was either Brian Cummings or if it was, and I'm completely blanking out on his name. Optimus Prime.
Peter Renaday. Not Peter Renaday.
No, not Peter
Cullen.
Renaday. Peter Cullen. I was watching a whole bunch of Saturday Reruns videos yesterday, and I think I got those two confused.
I'll have to look into that because I don't remember necessarily the voice of Car because that's been a long time. The one thing I was trying to remember, and I asked some people, I thought somebody in the room would have remembered this. I said, do you remember what Kit stood for? Is this Knight Industries? And I'm thinking 10,000, but do you remember that one?
2,000.
2,000. I knew I was close. But I was asking around while I was quick. Hey, did anybody remember what that acronym stands for? And nobody had a clue. And I was the only person who at least remembered, Knight Industries and something thousand. So, okay, number 9, and this was fun. This was a song of the month the year it came out at my school, and we sang this. But what song was super famous for having multiple artists singing and a charitable thing for feeding Africa?
I would assume that is "We Are the World."
We are the children. We are the ones that we had a sing-along start yesterday.
But then again, there's also "Do They Know It's Christmas Time?"
Right, but that was more of a Christmas thing.
That's true. True.
But it was still, I think they were trying to feed Africa.
That was Feed the World.
Yeah, it was
Feed the World.
Yeah.
Do. Sorry.
All right, question number 10. What was the famous slogan for Wendy's in the 1980s?
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef? Yep, that was pretty easy, to me at least. I think a bunch of other people got that one. And number 11, some people actually struggled with. Who was the singer of the hit song Papa Don't Preach?
Well, that was Madonna.
Yep, Madonna. There were some people who got confused, thought maybe it was Cyndi Lauper. So
they're in trouble deep if that's what they think.
Yeah, I guess so. But they're keeping their baby. So, number 12. What is the make and model of the car from the Dukes of Hazzard?
Well, I know it is a Dodge Charger.
You got it. Which I had to verify because he didn't say General Lee. And so I said, do you want the name of the car or the make and model? He says, it was the make and model. I said, okay, Dodge Charger, So some people got it close. They had like a Dodge Challenger written down from last night. Apparently, it's like, ooh, that's really close. All righty.
Some good old boys.
They never mean no harm. Although somebody meant some harm to this character in the hit series Dallas. Who got shot? Question 13.
JR.
And I even asked, are we sure we're not just dreaming that?
Well, and I never, ever watched an episode of Dallas.
Yeah, my parents did, and I got called JR enough because it's my initials, and so generally that meant I was in trouble. So all I knew was like, dude, that guy's got a genie.
Yes, I got that reference. I understood that reference.
I've gotten to meet Barbara Eden. She's so super nice and delightful when I got to meet her. So, and question 14, what was E.T.'s favorite candy?
Oh, that was M&M's until they rewrote it because they couldn't get M&M sponsorship, so it became Reese's Pieces.
Exactly, which some people wrote down M&M's, and I did tell them, so it almost was M&M's, but I forgot. The Mars company, I think, makes M&M's. They were not smart enough to take the promotion, and it actually saved Reese's Pieces from extinction, and that is my favorite candy. In fact,
and now we can get Reese's Pieces in our peanut butter cups.
And now we can even get Reese's Pieces in a Hershey bar. I want to eat one so bad. I saw that ad. I was like, oh, my goodness. I actually was eating Reese's Pieces as I forgot to mention we're going to have a movie review because I went to go see The Kid Who Would Be King, and I was eating some Reese's Pieces while I was sitting there watching that movie. So, all right. 15, final question. What movie made Ray-Ban sunglasses popular?
Oh, goodness. I would have to say, and this is 80s trivia, otherwise I'd say Men in Black, so I would have to say Risky Business.
Oh, same lead actor, but it was actually Top Gun.
Top Gun. Gotcha.
So you missed two of them. I only missed the one, the sports ball question. But it was a tough question. It was that the alligator crocodile thing. That was a tough one to miss. But overall, a lot of these questions, did they feel like they're just kind of common knowledge to you?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, we grew up in the 80s. A lot of this was stuff that we experienced that it's pop culture.
But yet I'm surrounded. I was in a room full of people that went through the 80s, did not know a lot of this. Which is why I'm thinking we might be this exclusive group. Of course, now this could be that because you're also a podcaster or you listen to a lot of other podcasts. I don't know if it's because we're being podcasters or that we listen to a lot of podcasts and we do stuff like Techno Retro Dads. They'd have loved this quiz. Stuff like that. Is that why we know this stuff? Are we like this weird hidden group, or are we just weird that we know and think this stuff is important?
Well, I think it's those of us who try and make sure that we make our regular trips to Neverland as often as we can.
We still embrace our youth and our childhood, I guess, a bit. But Heather and I had this nice conversation about that coming home. Am I really that kind of weird? I mean, I know I'm kind of nerdy geeky or whatever in that sense, but I guess I remember when they were going to, sorry, who got 15 right? And I almost had my hand up. I said, well, I got 14. So, who got 14 right? And my hand went up by itself, and I looked around the room and nobody else. And there wasn't a large group until we got like 10 or below. Then suddenly more hands were going up.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow. And Heather didn't even get the DeLorean speed. She got it at 85. She was so close. Some of those, if she'd have gotten wrong, I'd have been like, have you not lived with me for like near 16 years? But she got like the important ones. She didn't know Kit was with two T's, but that's okay. I said, well, at least you knew it was Kit.
Yeah.
So that was, I thought, very, very interesting. And I guess I learned a little something about myself. And, because I know I can get into a room full of like regular common people and I'll know a lot more stuff about Disney than them. But there's people who can out Disney me. But and that I expect because I've been head deep, I guess, nose deep, nose dive, head deep, whatever, into this whole Disney thing now for going on 10 years since I visited the parks.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my great regrets is while I was able to work for the Disney store for a short time, I wasn't there long enough to participate in their annual Disney trivia contest.
But Heather was telling me how Philip and I, would be, well, that's our thing in the 80s. We'd be able to talk this stuff. We could throw in questions about Hulk Hogan and we'd know that too, So we're like, I feel like we're an elite group or there's something seriously wrong with us, but we're having fun and we don't care.
That is true.
Exactly. But we do have some news to dive into this week.
spanning the Disney and geek universe to bring you the best in comics, toys, movies, and entertainment. This is news from around Neverland.
All right, so the first thing that I want to get into, other than Happy Lunar New Year, Year of the Pig, which apparently the three little pigs are running around the Disney parks in lunar celebration garb, which somebody take some pictures. I'd kind of like to see that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's neat. What I've seen, they're dressed in traditional Chinese clothing, red and yellow, and just a good way to mash up Disney with the new Lunar New Year. Yeah. And if you happen to be pigs out there by the Chinese calendar, send us a message and tell us what you feel like because you're a pig. I'm a snake, so I guess I'm not necessarily trustworthy in some accounts or something. I don't know, but I am supposed to be wise and crafty or something. I don't remember. There's a description. So it's a very, whenever you go to eat Chinese food, you can learn weird things about yourself, apparently. But something else that was really nifty. So the Magic of Disney store near Gates 159 over in Orlando International Airport was actually closed because they were doing some redesign. There was like a checkpoint expansion going on. And so it took them 6 months, but they have actually reopened the Magic of Disney store. And one thing that they've noted here at WDW News Today, they said that it seems to be more mannequins and screens, which is very different. And looking at the pictures, it's very different from what I expect of a Disney store. The one that I have at like Overland Park Mall, it feels like a toy store when you go in there. It's a lot of toys and merchandise. This feels fashionable. I mean, it's got a lot of shirts. It's got some toys in there, a lot of plush and some hats and all kinds of neat stuff. But it seems the design is more, I don't know, it feels clean. It doesn't feel as fun and festive. More functional over than anything else. More airport. But it looks nice. Yeah, definitely. And it's a great opportunity, especially if you're, just coming into Orlando or getting ready to leave before you go through security. And trust me, their security really does need to get revamped there in Orlando. But it's a great way for you to stop off and get that very last souvenir. Maybe there was something you had your eye on all the time, and you get to the airport and there it is, and it's your last minute impulse purchase before you go through security and head on to your flight. This isn't unusual for Orlando. There's stores there for SeaWorld, for Universal Studios. There's even one for the Kennedy Space Center. It's again that opportunity to try and get that last little Disney World themed souvenir. Yeah, and looking at the photos of what the Magic of Disney store used to look like, that's what I expected Disney store to look like. With the nice blue stars carpet and all kinds of different colors. So, I mean, it's very, very different now. And I actually, when I went to Orlando, I spotted that Universal shop and I was like, oh, hey, let's go ahead and take a quick moment and look in here. And I bought a Spider-Man shirt there. Of course I did. And it's one of the ones where it's got like texture for like trying to give you an abdomen muscles. So I can wear muscles on my fat tummy. So I had to buy one. So it was an impulse buy actually as I was arriving instead of leaving. So I guess I'm backwards. Well, I learned that the City Walk over at Universal Orlando is you can park for free after 6 p.m. So I'm thinking one of our future adventures in Orlando will be going to visit City Walk and seeing just what else they have to provide over there. Yeah, you get some Harry Potter merch. Exactly. You get your wand. Well, you could get your wand at the airport too. But, cool. That's not as much fun as getting it inside the park. Sure. Speaking of being inside the park, Disneyland, when they're going to open Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, they've been already saying that they're going to have some massive numbers of people coming in, especially if the rumors are true about this 28-minute Rise of the Resistance ride. Which, wow. But they've now call it Project Stardust, which is basically they're going to try to tweak a few things, limiting a few trees and planners and... Well, they're going to create the Death Star. Yeah, they're creating a Death Star. If the crowds get too bad, they're going to blast you away. Well, yeah, that was Project Stardust in Rogue One. Yeah, it was. Well, and this has been something that they've been working on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They're to be honest, the way that I describe Disneyland anymore is you cannot extend your arms out and walk without touching anyone at any given point. And where they've got Star Wars Land at the very north end of the park, you're going to have to go through, quite a bit of people and sidewalks and pathways before you can get back there. And, estimating and judging the crowds that they'll be expecting with the opening of Galaxy's Edge, they have been trimming back on some of these obstructions that are in the pathways. For example, in Adventureland, they had 2 huge planters out in the middle of the walkway, which served as a great place to stow strollers while you were on the attractions there, but they get in the way. They took out the planters. They've moved the stroller place. Part of the reason for Tropical Hideaway was to remove the Aladdin-themed element of a dome before you walk into the restaurant area. They took that out to help improve the flow of traffic through that area. Over by the Haunted Mansion, they've cut back on the planter benches that they have in front of the mansion. They've been working on little improvements all throughout the park just to help with that traffic flow as you go back and forth all the way up to Galaxy's Edge and back.
And of course, raising the ticket prices to try to cut down on some of the local. So, even low demand days went up to 104. And otherwise, the daily ticket for peak times is 149 now. By the time I get a chance to get out there, I'm going to have to be wealthy.
Yeah. Just about.
So we'll see how that works things out, because they really do have to worry about traffic in there. But I personally don't mind waiting a little bit to let things slow down just a bit before going to visit it. Let some of the initial excitement cool off just a bit, and then go in and enjoy it. Because really, those first at least months, and even over this first summer of going into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, it's going to be hard to feel immersed when you're part of a massive crowd.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to interact with those animatronic salespeople or, get in there. You're going to have to wait in line if you want to go and buy or trade for weird Star Wars items, like these weird dolls that are supposed to be in-universe dolls. It's going to suck some of the fun and immersiveness out of it. So my advice, unless you just feel like you have to be there as soon as it opens, hang back a bit or utilize the opportunity as everybody's rushing off to Star Wars Galaxies to hit everything else in the park, because I'll bet you everything will be fairly short wait and you can just have a ball at Disneyland riding everything else. Maybe even Peter Pan won't have a big line,
Possibly. And I just saw a meme the other day. It showed someone holding a ticket for Pandora and throwing it away. And the meme was saying, what I hope happens when Star Wars Land opens.
So everybody else gets a chance.
Exactly.
So, there's, unless you absolutely have to be there, just hang back for a little while. Give it maybe a year to kind of settle down, become more of a normal-ish. It's still going to be very busy for a while, but, let it cool off just a hair,
Oh, yeah.
It's like those new Christmas toys. After a week, they're just sitting somewhere. Give it a little time.
Yep.
Plus, everything will start to get that nice, slightly worn, used Star Wars feel.
Of course.
But you might need a bag at Walt Disney World to carry some of your goodies.
Yes, you may.
And they've actually shown some new designs of some reusable totes made from 80% recycled materials. They're costing approximately $1 to $2 range. And I guess that might mean there might be different sizes, or that we don't know exactly how much they're going to cost. But WDW News Today has had some photos of these. There's a fun, and apparently there's like multiple designs, because they mentioned there's going to feature some park icons and attractions on some of the different bags. But the only photos they have has one with a giant Mickey head. There's another bag that has Donald and Minnie and Goofy and Pluto, which might be the backside of the one with Mickey's head.
Mm-hmm.
So, these are adorable. I would just want to have the bag just for the sake of it, because they're not going to have any standard plastic bags offered. Although I'm one of them weird people somewhere around here. I've got a plastic bag from the Disney store that I just had to keep just because. because it's from the Disney store and I liked the bag. You know, so I keep stuff anyway. But they're going to have these available over at Disney Springs, and I believe inside the parks as well, but mainly at the World of Disney. Usually inside the parks, if you're there staying at a resort, you can get any products sent over to your resort room, and I advise doing that. That comes in handy so you don't have to carry stuff, because heck, I even went and bought a big Haunted Mansion Life game, which I love it. It's it's great. I call it, instead of life, it's afterlife. That's what I call it. But it's a big bulky item. It was better to get shipped. And then heck, even from your resort, you can even ship it through UPS and have it sent to your home, which that works out nicely too. Although I managed to carry everything in my carry-on bags from the airport. I managed to pack it all. So I was like, I'm saving money despite I just spent all this on souvenirs.
Yep. Well, the great thing about these bags is it's not just that Mickey design that they'll have on them. They're going to have bags specific to each of the 4 parks at Disney World. So, it says it'll be based upon the attractions and the icons. So I imagine, Epcot will have a version of Spaceship Earth on it, as well as, something related to World Showcase or other elements of Future World.
Maybe Figment will be on there featured. That would be nice.
We can hope.
Yeah.
Magic Kingdom, of course, will have Cinderella Castle. Animal Kingdom will have Tree of Life, and MGM Studios, will probably have the Chinese Theater, but they could just as easily have Star Wars related elements on it.
Yeah. You don't think they'll put that Sorcerer's Mickey hat?
Oh, that hat has been gone for a while now.
Yeah, I know.
Thank goodness.
I've heard that people miss it. To me, I thought that was the central icon when I was there, because I thought it was neat. We didn't realize the Chinese Theater was the center of the park, and somehow or another we got discombobulated because we based our exploration of the park on the hat and not the Chinese Theater. So somehow we missed an entire section where that stunt show was and where Toy Story Mania was. We completely missed that area somehow. So.
Well, and I didn't even get back to that part of the park myself. We did Sunset Boulevard. We walked up to the Chinese Theater, which was closed with the addition of Mickey's Runaway Trolley. And we went over to the Muppet and Star Wars themed areas. And that was it.
Yeah. There's still a lot of neat stuff to explore around there. I do remember walking down the New York street and then turning around because the Power Rangers were running around doing a show, and I was not interested in that. So, but Shanghai Disneyland just had an announcement that they're going to be building a themed area based on Zootopia, which overall I'd say that's pretty neat. But I want to see what it is they're planning to do. I want to see some design photos, because really Zootopia is a city. Yeah. So it seems to me like you're going to get a city street, but you can have some fun with that city street, because you can have, here's the little tiny buildings for the little mice to live in, but to theme this, you'd want to have a section. I mean, the cool part about Zootopia is having the different lands based on what that animal character would like to live in. Right, the different environments. And so if they can fit all these different environments into one little themed area, that would be pretty neat. Mm-hmm. So I could see this being really cool. Possibly, but I want to see the designs. Yeah. Let's see a little bit more about it. Yeah. Right now, all we know is they're going to do it. But you know what got announced this week? What got announced this week? The Oscars, which I'm still probably not going to watch. I don't watch these award shows anymore. What about the Berts and Ernies? Or the Big Birds? Well, if they suddenly come out with an Elmo show, I'm definitely not watching. But we've got some nominations, and one of these I don't think it has a chance in heck of winning. Black Panther got nominated for Best Picture, which I'm excited about. I think this is cool. It's a great Marvel movie. It's getting nominated for Best Picture, and it's nice to be acknowledged that, hey, you know what? These Marvel movies have been pretty darn good. But it's not going to win because it doesn't have any other bits for director or anything else that a typical Best Movie winner would have. Of that they're saying it feels like it's being put in there because of the quote unquote cultural significance of a black superhero movie. Mm-hmm. Well, and there's also been an ongoing debate with the Academy and with ABC, who hosts it, saying, we need to get some nominees in there that people actually have seen. Movies that true. People, have come to appreciate. And I think this is an easy way for the Academy to say, oh, you know what? We know that Black Panther was extremely popular. It had a lot of critical praise around it. Let's include it as one of the nominees. I know it's not that simple, but I can certainly see that type of a discussion taking place.
But still the fact that it is a Marvel movie, it's a superhero movie, and it's being recognized, whether it's because of its qualities in and of itself being a movie, or because of what it means to as far as the audience that it was intended for, or the audience that has picked it up and appreciated it. That's another discussion in and of itself.
Yeah. And it's definitely a good movie, but of the Marvel movies, I still liked Infinity War better.
Mm-hmm.
And it did also have a deep villain motivation. I think that's one of the things that was great about Black Panther is we had some good villain motivations, and we had a really interesting villain. But you know what? Thanos was just as interesting, and his motivations were interesting as well. So I still thought Infinity War also had that more epic scale. But I haven't really been interested in a Best Picture thing since Lord of the Rings was in there, That's the last time I actually watched.
Yeah.
But we got a couple for animated feature. Of course, we have a Pixar and a Disney. Now, of the two, Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet, I'm leaning Incredibles 2.
I'm leaning Incredibles 2 as well, but I'm actually leaning even more for a non-Disney film in this category this year.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse.
Right.
Which I still don't know if I liked it better than Incredibles 2. Because they were both fun. Mm-hmm. Incredibles 2, I don't know. I think part of the Incredibles might be just my love of the franchise itself. Helps with it, but also I do have a love for the Spider-Man franchise, and this was so much fun. Into the Spider-Verse, so it's tough. It's tough. Since they got a Gold Globe, let's let Incredibles 2 have another one. So maybe Brad Bird will think about a third one for us. But then we also got costume design. Now this is one that Black Panther I think could win because the costumes were so cool.
Oh yeah, cool, vibrant, just absolutely beautiful.
Yes. So, and it was very Africa, Lord of the Rings, but yet had that sci-fi feel. It was, oh my gosh, it was very cool. Mm-hmm. So, but other than that, Mary Poppins Returns is also up for Best Costume Design. And that one, yes, the costumes were great. And especially, I would almost like to hand it to Mary Poppins Returns just for that animated sequence, and the costumes they had in there that blended in with the animation were amazing.
Well, a cover is not the book.
Exactly. So that, the rest of the costumes were, very much period, and so they, they're not something we haven't seen before, but that one sequence alone could be what would give Mary Poppins Returns the Oscar. But I got to lean towards Black Panther because of just the look, of the style. It was just so cool. Mm-hmm. Now for musical score, Black Panther and Mary Poppins Returns.
Yes.
I don't know if I could lean any particular direction because Black Panther, it was very, very cool. It had that Africa drums feel and also had some epic music in there. Then Mary Poppins Returns, the music is pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't pick. How about you?
I couldn't either. I mean, Mary Poppins, of course, is a much more classic score, and it picks up on the elements of the songs that are used within the film. Whereas Black Panther, you're right. It's got that entire African culture and beat behind it, which is really a big part of the movie in and of itself as well.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. And then moving on to Best Original Song, Black Panther, All the Stars, which I think is the music in the credits. I haven't actually watched it since the theater. It's on Netflix. I need to go and sit and watch. I need to go buy it. I haven't gotten a chance to buy it yet. But All the Stars is going up against Mary Poppins Returns, The Place Where Lost Things Go. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the weird thing is that song is not going to be performed during the show.
As of right now, it doesn't appear that it's going to be performed. But I did hear a very interesting way to include it. And that was to use the song during the tribute portion of the show.
Yeah, that's not been a confirmed thing, but that's people getting the idea that would be cool. And that would be a cool way to use it. Mm-hmm. And I got to give this one to The Place Where Lost Things Go. Now, granted, my favorite song from Mary Poppins Returns was the Light Fantastic. I loved that, but of course my favorite sequence is the original is Step in Time. So I think this just having the same feel as Step in Time and having that big bombastic, dance thing. I loved it. So that might be why I lean that way, but The Place Where Lost Things Go, that would be a good one to put up there. I'm going with it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd have to agree.
And a lot of this, it seems the same two movies are competing. Production design between Black Panther and Mary Poppins Returns. Now, Mary Poppins Returns, very cool production. A lot of it is, I felt like it's the scenery that we're kind of used to. It looked like a Mary Poppins film. Black Panther kind of gave us this hidden Wakanda world.
Yeah, they had to create an entire world.
Yeah,
around it. Yeah, with elements that we are familiar with. But still, this entire society that's gone unseen by the rest of the world.
So I'm leaning Black Panther.
I am as well. Although, Mary Poppins Returns could give it a run, especially for the Dalton Bowl portion of it.
Yes, especially. And I love the hand-drawn animation in there anyway. So, it's just, wow. Short film animated, Bao. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I think it's Bao. I don't know what all it's up against, but, Disney Pixar fans, we're going with Bao on that one. I love that.
Course.
It was a cute. It had a good, deep, solid meaning. It was very heartfelt. Yes, indeedy. Black Panther is also up for sound editing. Go for it.
As well as sound mixing.
Oh, yes. And I've learned a lot more about how that works, and that is not an easy job.
Oh, no.
You have to be good. Visual effects, though. Marvel Studios' Avengers Infinity War, Christopher Robin, and Solo, A Star Wars Story. Any one of these three could get it, but I'm going to, just because it's a little different, Christopher Robin made us believe that stuffed animals were really there.
I have to agree on that one as well. Both, well, as great as Infinity War was and Solo, those movies are they're chock full of special effects. And, with CG being what it is anymore, it's kind of like, okay, so what's new about this? But with Christopher Robin, where they, brought those characters to life, took us to the 100-acre wood, I think it's different enough that it's got a good shot.
Yeah, so I'm going to lean on that one just because it's that difference. It wasn't bombastic, spectacular effects. It was just simple effects that made it real to where we could relate into, and we could love these characters as much as we've loved them in the past. That like they could still. I haven't bought this one yet either, and I need to buy it because it was so great. Yeah. So yes, indeedy. So I'll be paying attention just to see what wins. That's pretty much it. But I'm not going to watch the show because I'm not interested in watching their shows anymore. But January 30th this week over at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood, there's going to be a big tribute to Stan Lee called Excelsior, a celebration of amazing, fantastic, incredible, and uncanny life of Stan Lee. We've got a lot of special guests like Mark Hamill, Rob Liefeld, Michael Uslan, RZA, I have no idea who that is, Tom DeSanto, Marv Wolfman, Joe Quesada, Jeff Loeb, love that guy, he's a great writer, Bill Sienkiewicz, Gil Champion, Lauren Schuler-Donner, and Derek Hoffman, producers of X-Men, that's who that is. I wonder if Lauren Schuler-Donner is related to like Richard Donner. I've always wondered that, but I don't know. Anyways,
husband and wife.
They are husband and wife. Okay. Yeah. We're also going to have like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Avi Arad, and Amy Pascal. A lot of people are going to be showing up for this, but it's a limited amount of tickets. And if you go to legionm.com/Stan Tribute, you can find out how to get those tickets. Now, I have not heard anything about a live stream or televising this at all. I would expect that kind of like the Jim Henson tribute program. That's what I would want them to do for Stan Lee, but I haven't had anything to confirm that I have seen.
Now, just based upon some of the guests and some of the people that are arriving, I would not be surprised if this were shown on Fox or FX, because they are they're including the cast of Legion as well as The Gifted, which makes me think that this is going to be something that Fox is putting together for their own broadcast.
Yeah, so check your local listings. I know I'm going to check it out because I really would like to watch this. Give me an excuse to sit here and cry alone in my room. So, but that's all the news that is the news this week. And now I've got a little movie review for you.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Hey, a movie,
Yeah, we're gonna be a movie
starring everybody
and me.
Boy, I wish I were you people seeing this for the first time.
Kermit, I got a great picture of the chicken.
Oh, good.
Alex, you're gonna be late.
Okay.
Tom. Here.
Thanks, Mom.
A land is only as good as its leaders.
Somebody help me! Hey, leave him alone.
A true king is brave and noble.
Don't be a hero. I'm the king around here.
You have more battles yet to fight.
That fast as you can go. We've got you now!
Now, you must choose what you stand for.
Betters, you've got to see what I found. There's something written on the guard. Put it into Google Translate. It means Sword of Arthur. What if you're the only person who could have pulled that sword out? What if it's Excalibur?
Ah, finally. Follow me. I am Merlin.
I thought Merlin was supposed to be an old man.
An ingenious disguise, don't you think? In 4 days, the Dark Sorcerer Morgana will take over the world.
Awaken my warriors. And I'm supposed to stop her. That's ridiculous. There's your sword back, and good luck with everything.
You're a king, Alexander. The sword chose you.
Why would we help you?
Because you're the strongest people I know. You're my knights. And this is the round table. Quick, Betters, lift up the flaps.
Oh my god, you're such a nerd.
This is destiny. It's just like in every story we ever read. Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, something amazing happens. And they find out they're descended from magical families. Mum, don't freak out, okay? Who will join us? This is the best and the worst thing that's ever happened.
All hail the once and future king.
Please don't. It's embarrassing. Where did you learn how to drive? Mario Kart.
Okay, now I've mentioned this movie quite a few times. Strangely enough, we never actually featured it in the trailer park, but I know I've mentioned it when I'd seen the trailer in the theaters. Like, this actually looks like a lot of fun. And going to get the audio for the trailer, strangely enough, I saw some people commenting on YouTube that I guess based upon the fact that some of the people who worked on Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which I guess they are not happy about that movie. I didn't see the second one. I only saw The Lightning Thief, and it was okay. But based upon that, people were already downing on this movie, like, oh, this is going to be awful with these people. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't base it on that. I would base it on what you're seeing in the trailer. And what I saw in the trailer intrigued me. And so I was, I got excited for it. I thought it looked like fun. Heather got a bit excited, thought it looked like a lot of fun. And so we went yesterday, and we got exactly what we expected. It was a lot of fun. It was, oh my gosh, this was so great. And it's going to be, I think, underappreciated. I think everybody just needs to go out and get it. This movie felt like Disney could have made it.
Yeah.
It felt very Disney, and you got to go and expect, okay, well, this is going to be a bunch of kids that thwart Morgana. So you're going to have to expect that little bit of goofy cheesiness that kids are somehow going to do this, and just go with it, because that's part of the fun. And doggone it, Patrick Stewart is Merlin. I mean, that's just flipping awesome.
Well,
and
it makes me think, I was just going to say Patrick Stewart with hair.
Right, with crazy hair too, because anytime he pops up, his hair is like everywhere. But oh my gosh, the rest of the cast, and I'm going to look them up real quick because I should have done this before. The rest of this cast, even the 15-year-old version of Merlin, was so fantastic. I mean, because he. Angus Emery, or Angus Emery. Let's see if we might know him from anything else. I don't see anything else that I recognize. I mean, a lot of these kids, I don't know that I've seen them in anything before, but Merlin's spells are these crazy hand claps and gestures that he does in rapid succession. Like this. He's doing this stuff, and the kid he knows he's doing something that otherwise would be ridiculous. But he does it in complete seriousness, and he even has this Jedi mind trick spell that he does, and he finishes it with this slightly hand flourish and these crazy eyes. And it's so funny to see, but the kid's doing it like he believes he's doing these spells. He sells it as ridiculous as it looks. He's like fully committed, and Merlin stole the movie anytime he walked in. And he's in and out of it like Gandalf. He's only there when they absolutely need him. He shows up. And I had so much fun, and it's got such a great message for our modern age, where there's so much divisiveness. This movie teaches about chivalry, and it's a message that's been lost. If you want to have a good anti-bullying message, this is the way to do it. It really helps, I think, deliver a bit of the message that, like, the difference between bullying and being a hero is whether you're fighting for yourself or fighting for others.
Yeah.
And if you're big and you're strong enough to where you can fight and be good at it or whatever, and you need to be a protector. You are a knight at that point. And that's one of the lessons that comes across. Now they come across, they're aiming at children a lot of times. So they kind of have to come out and say it a bit. So, it might feel preachy, maybe. It didn't really feel preachy to me because I know it was just, I think it was just well delivered because they knew their audience was, there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to love this movie. I think the adults are going to have a good time too. Because I'm an adult, I'm 41, and I had a blast. And it was funny. It had this epic fantasy feel underneath where this goofy kids movie. Basically, if you took the Goonies and you cleaned up the language and some of the themes, it's completely cleaned up Goonies, but having like a fairy tale fantasy adventure somewhere along the Chronicles of Narnia, of maybe what a Narnia movie should feel like. That's what this was. It was just so great, and a really great lesson. And I'm going to steal a little bit of what Patrick Stewart says as Merlin towards the end of the movie. That I guess it's not even his that necessarily says it. It's the kid Alex who finds Excalibur and suddenly realizes that he is the heir. He's got to be the heir of Uther Pendragon. So because he doesn't really know everything out of the lineage, and they don't really dive into it too much, but. He says, he points to these two characters that you meet in the trailer that are basically the bullies. And he's like, hey, when we got this going, we hated each other. But we learned by hating each other, we couldn't see the real evils of the world that we needed to be together to go and confront. And that is a message to, I think, America, to the entire world right now. There's so many people that are so worried about hating each other and finding excuses and making up things and reasons to hate each other that we're not looking at the real problems that we need to get together and deal with. And a movie that was just basically a kid's movie, to be able to give that message, I think was fantastic. And I hope this movie is getting all the credit it deserves because it's a lot of fun. It says some good heartfelt things that I really kind of had to take in and kind of think about and internalize and say, hey, am I being as chivalrous as I need to be? Am I following the code of the knights? Because we should be. Wow. I cannot recommend this movie enough. Take the kids, the whole family. You're all going to have a great time. Just remember that, okay, it's kids fighting the evil sorceress Morgana. It's kids that's going to win this somehow. So it's going to be a little cheesy, and you'll never see a kid die. They'll live longer than Ewoks do, okay? So it's going to have that level of goofy, childish fun. But, if you're expecting that, then you don't get hung up on it and just have fun.
Yeah.
But such a good movie. Eric, take your kids. Have a good time.
Will do. Will do.
And get in there before Lego Movie 2 comes out because we got to see that one.
All I know is that song's going to get stuck inside my head.
Although everything is not awesome anymore. But the Lego Movie 2 is still on its way. But now it is time for us to move on to our very long and very entertaining conversation with Mr. Jim Korkis. And take notes, y'all. Seriously, take notes.
To Disney and beyond.
And then in November 65, that's when Walt announces we're building in Florida.
Yeah.
And actually that's a good idea because I don't see how they could have built both, and especially with Walt passing away in 66, how the Disney company could have handled both. I've talked with people who were involved with the Epcot project, and I said, could Epcot really have happened? A community, and it's 20,000 people, and they're all behaving in a Disney way 24/7 because people are coming and visiting and watching them, so they can take back this stuff to their own cities. And I said, look, I was a coordinator with college and international programs. It's hard enough to get, a college kid to behave in a Disney way, for the 8 hours that he's on stage, let alone 24 hours a day. And they said Walt would have made it work. But once Walt was gone, none of this was going to happen.
Oh,
and, and the same thing here. So, from an outdoor pedestrian mall in St. Louis, it was going to be this huge enclosed theme park, and it would have elements that later got pulled and developed for the Disney theme park. So Pirates of the Caribbean actually came from this, and some of the other things as well, because nothing ever goes to waste. It's sort of like Frankenstein. You take apart from this and apart from that. You stitch it together, and it seems to work. But Walt was very committed because Missouri and the history of Missouri was very, important to him. And it was like.
Did any of them take a look at some point and say, "Hey, if St. Louis won't do it, maybe Kansas City will"? Because that would have made me very happy.
I think they just got exhausted because you're dealing with all. And again, the other thing that Walt didn't like was really dealing with other people who would tell him no.
Yeah.
and had the authority to tell him no. He just got exhausted over that, because in the 1950s, a lot of people don't realize this, but the Disney studio had a commercial department. It was actually run by Walt's niece, Phyllis Bounds, but it used Disney artists, and the offices were there on the Disney studio. But you couldn't say you were doing a commercial studio, because that was like, oh my gosh, that's so low status, and why would you do that? But that is one of the places where they got money for building Disneyland. Is they were doing this, and so they were creating characters like Bucky Beaver for Ipana toothpaste. Brush up, brush up, brush. The voice is a sped up voice of Jimmy Dodd from the Mickey Mouse Club, and Tommy Mohawk for Mohawk Carpets, and Fresh Up Freddy, who looked like the Araquan bird, and a little bit of. The one from Three Caballeros, the Panchito, and Fresh Up Freddy, where you have to have 7-Up at all of your parties, and all of this. And a lot of these sponsors were sponsors for Disney shows like the Mickey Mouse Club and Zorro and all of this. And so that lasted for roughly about 5 years, and the reason it fell apart was not because it wasn't making money hand over fist, and that there were people lining up out the door, but Walt didn't like it that he was doing something, and then one of the sponsors would go, because they were used to dealing with other commercial studios, no, I think we should change this here, and we'd like more of this, and we'd like a little bit more of this color, and Walt just couldn't put up with that. And so that was one of the things he was starting to find in St. Louis, is they had given him a free hand, but my gosh, when I look at just some of it, and this is just some of it, there was more. There was more. When I look at just some of this, I go, this is overwhelming. If I was a council person, in St. Louis, first off, I'd be blinded by Walt Disney and Walt Disney's charisma and just presence. But then I start to take a look at all of these things, and it's like, this could be 10 minutes away from my house. You go, holy cow! Oh my gosh! Buzz Price figured that conservatively, about 25,000 guests per day would would come, and that would be even during the winter, would come to visit the park, which would be enough to start it off with a small profit. But again, Buzz Price was very conservative. You take a look at Disneyland now, and Disneyland gets between 50 to 80,000. Jammed into that little itty bitty, and I'm just amazed at Disneyland. I grew up going to Disneyland, and I was just amazed at how much they packed into that amount of space, and it didn't intrude on other areas in other things. And then, of course, now I'm out here in Orlando where it's just massive. I talked with Imagineer Tony Baxter, and he said, Disneyland is an intimate experience, but Walt Disney World is a spectacular experience.
Yeah.
So when he was asked to compare those two, and there's just nothing like Disney. One of the things that I think draws people to Disney, and people come to Disney through different ways. They come through animation, they come through the comic books, they come through the merchandise, they come from going to the parks, it comes from the songs, whatever. But they all come for the same reason, which is that feeling of magic and reassurance that no matter what is happening in your life, and this all came from Walt, no matter what was happening in your life, it was all going to work out.
Yeah.
It was there was going to be a happy ending. Even if you went to Pleasure Island and your friends were turning into donkeys, it's still going to be all right. Even if that wicked witch poisons you and kills you with an apple, it's still going to be all right.
Yeah.
There's still. I talked with Imagineer Alice Davis when I was going through a bad patch, and she said, Jim, at Disney, and me personally, I believe in happy endings.
Right.
And if you're not happy, it just means it's not the ending yet.
Yep.
and so, that's one of the reasons, it's great to have podcasts like this to give a little bit of the magic, to people, and sort of almost like a booster shot to get them all, back up into that. And those of you who are listening to this and go, gee, I really like this guy. I have written a lot of books, and they're available at Amazon.com and at ThemeParkPress.com. And they cover everything from secret stories of Disneyland to, there's actually one book called Call Me Walt that is just about Walt Disney. And in the 200-some pages, I never mention Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, audio animatronics, any of that, because oftentimes we define Walt through what he did rather than who he was. And so this is the first book out there where I talk about his pets, I talk about the different cars that he had, where he went, to buy his clothes, every member of his family, the hobbies that he had, and people go, oh yeah, I know hobbies. He liked miniatures. He liked trains. His biggest hobby the last years of his life, lawn bowling. and he went to lawn bowling tournaments on his way to get a special award from special medal from President Lyndon Johnson. He took his lawn bowling team to a tournament that was taking place in a state on the way to go into Washington, D.C. And in fact, just before Walt died, he was making plans on taking the whole team to a lawn bowling tournament in Australia.
Oh, wow.
And so, as I said, with Disney history, there's always something new to learn. And I over the holiday season, over December, I had two books come out. One of them is Vault of Walt, Volume 7, the Christmas edition, which is filled with nothing but Christmas stories about Walt, the parks, the films, miscellaneous things like the story Ward Kimball told me about how one Christmas he had always dressed up as Santa Claus, but he got so tired of it that he dressed up as a gorilla in a Santa Claus costume to scare his kids at Christmas so he wouldn't have to do it anymore. He ended up scaring the dog and had to run across the lawn to a neighbor's house with this dog chasing him and wearing this like 40, 60-pound costume as a gorilla. So that's out there. And also to celebrate Mickey Mouse's birthday, Secret Stories of Mickey Mouse, which is over 100 two-page stories of Mickey Mouse, including the story of how in the 1933 King Kong movie, which I love, one of my favorite films, it was Mickey Mouse who killed King Kong.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this now.
You're gonna have to watch it. Well, basically, what it was there was a flight squadron at a Naval Air Force base there in New York that they hired, and they had painted on the side of the planes a Mickey Mouse logo. That was the very first military Mickey Mouse logo. And so they went up, and when Willis O'Brien had to make the little miniatures and all that, painted on the logo. So there are several scenes where if you look closely, because nobody's looking at the side of the plane, you look at the plane, it's Mickey Mouse riding this goose, and it's got this bomb, and it's Mickey Mouse. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, Well, the planes got him, Mr. Denham. No, it wasn't the planes. It was Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse killed the beast.
Great.
So if you're looking for oddball stories, and again, the advantage of buying my books is this stuff, and when you share it, not one person says, "Did you find this out from Jim Korkis?" They go, "Oh, you just know everything about Disney." Because you're the Disney expert for your friends and for your family. And keep in mind that I'm an orphan. This is how I make my living. The transmission on my car is being fixed right as we listen to this here. And so you don't hear the sadness in my voice. And it'll be less sad, actually, if you pick up one of those books. And so maybe Jeremy and Eric will list that in the show notes, Amazon.com and ThemeParkPress.com. And I have a brand new book coming out in March called The Unofficial Walt Disney World 1971 Companion. And it covers the entire creation of Walt Disney World from 1958, which is when Walt had Buzz Price start to do surveys on the East Coast of where to put another theme park, right up through the end of the fiscal year 1972. And so it covers everything. In fact, there's even a little short section where I cover St. Louis, because I also make the connection of these were the things that were for the St. Louis Riverfront Square project and ended up at Walt Disney World. And the foreword is done by Tom Nabby, who was the original Tom Sawyer on Tom Sawyer's Island at Disneyland in 56 when that opened up. And the afterword is done by Bill Sully Sullivan, who was a Jungle Cruise skipper at Disneyland in 55, later became the vice president of the Magic Kingdom out here. Both of them are good friends. There's an entire chapter where I just have memories from people who were there at Disneyland, at Walt Disney World in 1971. So that'll be coming out in March. And the reason it's called The Unofficial, because again, it's unofficial, Walt Disney World 1971 Companion, is a companion book to the unofficial Disneyland 1955 Companion that is out there. And in fact, I've had people who worked at Disneyland in 55, and they go, "How did you know?" stuff. And I said, I interviewed a lot of people. I interviewed Imagineers. I interviewed animators. I interviewed, people who worked in the shops. I looked through documents, I spent money that I didn't have. I ate peanut butter lunches so that I could get, some of this stuff. And again, I'm afraid that so much of this is getting lost. Yeah. Because Disney is very much, when we talk about history, Disney is very much an oral history company because they're so busy doing things, they don't have enough time to sit down and document it and record it, And so even at the Disney studios when they were doing animation, if somebody came up and said, well, I want some information about, Steamboat Willie, they'd say, oh, well, go talk to Ub Iwerks down in Special Processes. He worked on that. He could answer any questions about that. It never occurred to people, what's going to happen when these people die or they leave? Or one of the challenges I run into when I interview some of them is their memories aren't as sharp as they used to be, and they mess up the chronology. Or one of the big problems I had was, one of the big challenges I had was if they had worked at Disneyland and they had worked at Walt Disney World, it sort of blended together for them.
Yeah.
So they would say, oh, yeah, at Disneyland on the Jungle Cruise, when we went through the Temple Cave, and I go, no, that's at Walt Disney World. Really? No, I was there. One of them told me, there was a bridge from Frontierland that you walked across to Tom Sawyer Island. I said, no, that's not the case. No, I walked it. I said, that couldn't be because the Mark Twain is coming through there all the time. How could there be a bridge? And so everything in my books, I have to verify from 3 independent sources.
Oof.
Because, there's so much out there, especially on the internet, where people are doing cut and pasting, oh, it's here, this must be true.
Yeah.
So I get 3 independent sources, or I just don't include it. I don't even include it as, the rumor was, I don't even include that. Everything in there has been verified as much as it can be verified, and again, I worked for the Disney company, and so when I was at Walt Disney World, I had access to the 8 company libraries that were at Disney World. They're not there anymore. But Imagineering had a library, Animation had a library, Entertainment had a library, Marketing had a library, and I would just go in there on my days off because I was a Disney cast member and I knew people, and I would just sit there and I would take notes and I would read and I would watch and all this. And why are you doing that? And it broke my heart that the Disney University Library, shortly before I was laid off, they just got rid of all of their videotapes. They had videotape interviews with Joe Fowler, Admiral Joe Fowler, and things like that. They just tossed them because they go, well, I don't know if we have clearances from these people, and, we just don't have the time and money to, have somebody digitize this. And I said, I'll digitize it for free.
Yes. For the second time now in this conversation, I hear Indiana Jones going, that belongs in a museum.
Bing, 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 bing. So I hope there was a charming Disney historian who made copies of as many of those tapes as he could get. I hope out there somewhere there's a Disney historian who did that so that he could share that information with people who are listening to this podcast. Hey, I had a lot of fun with you guys. I hope you're going to ask me to come back on.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Love to have
and I hope, for crying out loud, the next time you're going to allow me to talk. You're not just going to keep interrupting.
Yeah, I tried to look for an opening, but there just wasn't going to happen.
I was just going to say, in the meantime, I'm going to try and find myself a book about how to be a Disney historian.
Yeah.
In fact, I wrote a book, How to Be a Disney Historian, where I went to the top historians, and I said, tell me how you do it, so that future generations to know how to do this.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people today, as I said, say, "Oh, I saw this here, so I'll just repeat that." I've had things taken from me word for word, and that hurts. But what hurts even more is they've taken it word for word, and they've taken off my name and they put on their own name. There's one article where I'm talking about growing up in Glendale, California, with my two brothers, and that's in the article, but it's got somebody else's name.
Oh gosh.
Oh my goodness.
And I wrote to the person and I said, "Look, here's where it originally appeared, and I'm the one who grew up in Glendale." And the response I got back is, "You're crazy. You're crazy." No, we didn't get it from that. We got it from a variety of different sources. I said, "It's word for word." and again, facts are out there. Any of the facts that I've shared about St. Louis Riverfront Square, that's available to anybody now. You know, but how you present those facts. And again, I try to use facts to tell a story. And I hope I've done that on this podcast and made it interesting and so that people who are listening to this feel that they've gotten value for their time.
And I just wish I'd have gotten that park that I could visit because it'd only be 4 hours away from me. And I still think here in Kansas City, we need a Disney park. If they just come and bought where Worlds of Fun sits today and rebuilt that, because right now it's so mediocre. Because I grew up going to Worlds of Fun and it was always fun. But then you go to Walt Disney World, you come back, you go to Worlds of Fun, you're like, wow, this park stinks compared to that.
Well, we can do an entire story about what's the difference between a theme park and an amusement park.
And Worlds of Fun used to be a theme park. They had a theme of Around the World in 80 Days, but the new people who own Knott's Berry Farm, I can't even think the name of the people, when they bought it from Lamar Hunt. Yeah, Cedar Point. When they bought it away from Lamar Hunt, they've just let that park go away from theming altogether. It's
absolutely.
It is
absolutely.
At least they're trying to keep it open a little longer.
We can talk about that whole thing that amusement parks were really an American invention. It happened because at the turn of the century, you had trolley parks. Now, what a trolley park was. Do we have time to talk about this? I can wrap this up in 2 or 3 minutes here. Basically, what happened is in the old days, people didn't want to ride trolleys because, my gosh, they could go like 5 miles per hour. You know, you wouldn't be able to catch your breath because the air is just zipping by you so quickly. And so, and then also on the weekends, nobody's riding the trolley because you're not going to work. And so the trolley companies came up with the trolley parks. And a trolley park was centered around a body of water, like a river or a lake or whatever. And they would have picnic benches, type things, so people could then take the trolley out to the trolley park, which was pretty much the end of the line there, and you could fish and you could boat and you could have a little picnic. And then people thought, well, wait, what if we put up some food and beverage things here so people don't have to bring their picnic baskets with them? What if we set up a couple of games, things like this? And so a lot of the amusement parks that we know of, Coney Island's one of the famous ones, started as a trolley park. And as it grew chaotically. There was no plan. It just kept expanding and sprawling out and all of that. And then also it brought in pickpockets and prostitutes and all of these, and so then that's why they started charging money to go into an amusement park, because if you had spent a dime and then you did something naughty and got kicked out of the park, you lost that dime. So it guaranteed that you would stay there longer. And then also you want to get in as many people as possible, so there are lots of different entrances into the amusement park. And part of that also is to confuse you so you will stay longer in the amusement park. You know, because you're constantly going back and forth and all this, and there's all of these sounds and all this trying to attract your attention, and all of these colors and all this. What made Disneyland unique is there was only one entrance. Yeah. So you went in and you went to the hub, and then it spoked out into these different areas. And so that way you could also control the people coming in and control, okay, who's gone out, you know? And there's the castle there. So you're always, no matter where you are in the park, you always have that reference, you know, so that you can find your way through this. So you're not constantly getting lost and frustrated. Again, that sense of reassurance. You're safe.
Right.
Everything is all right. And the reason why you have Main Street there is not just because Walt loved things that were nostalgic. You had a Main Street there as a transition because you had just come from a city that had streets and buildings and shops and cars and things like this. And now you go into Disneyland, and yes, you've got a city that has got streets and cars, but my gosh, it's a smaller perspective. So even though you don't notice it consciously, your mind goes, this is a fantasy. There's something else here. And you're transitioning through that into these other worlds. And as you leave, you're also going through that to prepare yourself to go out there into that real world again. So it's not a shock to your system.
Although coming home is always a shock to the system.
And Walt did this all instinctively. You know, I talked to John Hench, and I had talked to him years ago, because, you know, when I write these books, you know, it's not like, well, I'll sit down and I'll write a book today. Usually they're in preparation for years or decades, you know, gathering the information. And I said, how did you go about building other, you know, theme parks after Walt passed away? And he said, we had to do it through experience, where Walt did it through instinct. You know, Walt had that sense of, you know, this is what, you know, should be here. You know, there was when Disneyland first opened, there was an area that people were constantly cutting across, and so Bill Evans, who was the landscaper, said, I'm going to stop them from doing that. I'm just going to plant cactus here, you know, so people don't go through. People were kicking the cactus to pieces and all this, and they went to Walt, and Walt said, put the most delicate flowers you can right there. And they said, Walt, you're insane. They're kicking the cactus. And you're saying put the most... He put the most delicate flowers there. People avoided it. Because it was the most delicate flowers that even just a slight breeze, and they just started to shake a little bit, you know? And so people were not going to add to that. Walt was just amazing, an amazing man. And, you know, he only had 1 year of high school. And that was in Missouri, of course. But only 1 year of high school, and then went overseas. And when he came back, he felt that he'd had so much experience that he didn't need to go back and finish school, which was a crazy thing for somebody at that time, because, you know, you needed to have that education to get a job. And he wanted to be a cartoonist, which was absolutely insane, because at that time, there were no animated cartoons, and the only cartoonists worked for newspapers, and they were primarily editorial cartoonists, and they were primarily old guys, and most of them just stayed there until they died. So for a young boy without a high school education saying, I'm going to be a cartoonist, it's like, oh, geez, you know, did he get kicked by the mule? Did he get kicked by a Missouri mule? I don't know this.
May as well work in that jelly factory.
Well, you know, the exciting thing about the jelly factory is he worked there for a little while, and he got bored. So what he did is he went back up the line, because Walt's job was actually to take the jars and put them in a crate and seal up the crate. But sometimes the jars weren't coming down. And so he went back up the line to see all the different processes and what was being done, so he could understand why the jars weren't coming down as fast as they should. And so by studying that, he was then later able to use that in animation of setting up an assembly line type of situation. And knowing exactly how long, this would have to happen, this would have to happen, this would have to happen, and you end up with that animated film.
Lessons from a jelly factory. Who knew?
That's about it. And again, tap into this as much as you can. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a life. So I've got nothing else to do but obsess about Disney. But once I get one of those things, all of this will ooze out of my ears like slime. So, and I'll forget all of that stuff. But
we'll just put jars next to your ears and catch it.
This has just been a real pleasure. I love sharing this with people who love Disney and love the discovery of that. And thank you so much, and thank you so much for allowing me to promote my books. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for coming on. This has been fun. I mean, I'm learning stuff here. I should be taking notes.
Well, again, I try to give as much information as I can so people go, I should listen to that podcast again.
Yes, they should. We are here every week. And we will definitely have you back because there's so much stuff. Because there's some of your books I'd like to get into, like Song of the South. And you wrote a book about some of the myths about Walt Disney that I'm intrigued by. And we're even planning on talking to, Paul Anderson from the Disney History Institute.
Yeah,
I plan on having him on. He said he's going to be available in February, so everybody keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming up as quick as we can because he's actually on his Facebook page been debunking a lot of this ridiculous things people say about Walt. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to him as well.
And again, because Walt is larger than life, and we tend to forget Walt passed away 50 years ago. So a lot of people never saw him, on TV or heard him talk or things like that. So they think he's this mythological figure, like a Paul Bunyan or a Betty Crocker or something like that. He was a real man. He wasn't a perfect man. He was stubborn. He had a temper, but there was nobody else in the world like him. Nobody else in the world like him. Well, maybe some of your listeners will write in some questions and say, gee, when you have Jim back on, could you have him talk about this or have him talk about that? And,
that's a good idea.
I can make up anything, so it's okay. See, you guys actually believe there was a St. Louis project. Yeah, nobody ever heard of that.
Oh, we know there's not even a St. Louis, and I live here, and I've been there, and there hasn't been a St. Louis.
Well, one of the things you can do as an aspiring Disney historian, go back and pull up some of the newspaper articles from that time period, 63 through 65, and see what they're saying about this project.
That is an interesting concept. I hadn't thought of doing that.
Especially the local papers.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make national news, but yeah, the local papers, that's pretty important.
Yeah. Sounds a lot like what W.R. Miller was saying he was doing research for his Star Wars book that he just put out this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but Bob's a good friend, and my gosh, he does research that just hearing about it exhausts.
Yeah. Well, as usual, I'm having too much fun talking. See, book authors are more fun sometimes than a lot of other people we talk to because they have so much knowledge they've gained when working on these books that it's always a treat. Mm-hmm. So if you're actually listening to this and you're writing a Disney book and you want to talk about it, come talk to us because we like hearing about all the stuff you learn when you're researching. So, open invitation. Well, once again, thanks for coming on the show, and we're definitely going to have you back as many times as you possibly can stand us.
And thank you so much for inviting me, and for all of you who are listening. My wish for you in the new year is that all your Disney dreams come true.
Thank you for listening to the Neverland Podcast.
We invite you back next week for more fun and adventure.
Until then, remember to keep a pixie in your pocket.
It's that young at heart, positive attitude that you can share with others.
And remember to visit our website at neverlandpodcast.com.
There you can find links to our news page, our shop,
our contact page, where you can easily send an email to podcast@neverlandpodcast.com.
You can also find our Neverlanders page, where you can find out how to become an official Lost Boy or Pixie, because girls are too clever to get lost.
Become a real Neverlander.
Please feel free to leave us a voicemail at 816-226-6492.
And be sure to follow us on Twitter at NeverlandPcast.
And like our Neverland Podcast fan page on Facebook.
We also have a group on Facebook for you to join.
We also appreciate your support to keep the Neverland Podcast up and running.
Visit patreon.com/NeverlandPodcast to donate to keeping the pixie dust alive.
Copyright content featured on the Neverland Podcast is copyright of their respective creators and used under fair use license.
All original content is copyright of Blue Band Productions, and a very special thanks to Yeehaw Bob Jackson at yeehawbob.com for our new ending music. God bless!
Hello, everybody. This is Yeehaw Bob Jackson. Neverland Podcast, we love you. Neverland Podcast, we love you. Neverland Podcast, it's true. Neverland Podcast, we love you. Yeah!
Is your wallet a little lighter than usual after the holiday season? Consider it money well spent, because you deserve to live your best life, and the Chime checking account wants to help you live yours to the fullest. A little extra money goes a long way, which is why the Chime checking account has tons of benefits that millions of members love, like fee-free overdraft up to $200 for eligible members, no monthly fees, and access to over 60,000 easy-to-find and fee-free ATMs. You even get paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit, all while managing your money on the go, including sending and receiving money fee-free with friends that aren't even on Chime. Sign up for Chime today for you and your wallet. Get started at chime.com/goals24. That's chime.com/goals24. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Access to direct deposits up to 2 days early depends on the timing of the submission of the payment file from the payer. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply.
Get ahead of postage rate increases this year with Stamps.com. It's like your own personal post office. Sign up with promo code PROGRAM for a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. That's Stamps.com, code PROGRAM.